All right, guys, so I got Steve's car pulled out here in the driveway underneath my carport. This way I have a little bit of a breeze coming through because there's nothing in that garage. If I plug in a fan in that garage, it just blows hot air, so it's a little bit better out here. So I can't go pick up my dog from the veterinarian until 2 o'clock, and I didn't want to get filthy dirty, you know, and climb in on something heavy, so I decided to do something a little easy. So what I decided to work on was this door, and man, I got to tell you, this is something. I'm going to show you guys this. So the car came here just like this, and as you can see, the door is shut. That flipper is kicked out all the way, like the door's open. So the wing window's not even coming in contact with the tab to move that flipper in. And here's the reason. This is some high quality work right here. So you can see how tight your gap is right here, and then it's loose here. Look how far down this door is. This door needs to come up until this lines up. So that's how far down this door is from that. It is very, very tight right here. I'm surprised it hasn't even chipped paint yet. So this door is going to have to go up. Now when this goes up, the gap's going to get better on this because it contours better. So hopefully that will help start getting this to operate a little bit better. Problem is, these are aftermarket flippers, so this is going to be my first dive into reproduction flippers that everybody complains about. So I can tell you right now, I can get my finger in between there. This flipper's too far back. It's also too far in because when I push in on this, that's as far as it goes, and there ain't nowhere near where it needs to be. So probably gonna have to drill new holes in the roof. But first off, I'm going to go ahead and pull that flipper off, but I'm going to go ahead and readjust this door because there's no door panels on the car. Now's the time to do it. I cannot believe that a shop that, you know, a paying customer got that kind of a job done. That's amazing to me. So anyway, you know, the door is got to be aligned to the car first before you put the front clip on. So another problem it has is this line right here. Of course, this is wider than this, but this door has to go up, then the fender will have to be readjusted, and the gap on the hood is kind of wide at the back, and it's almost touching right here, like the chrome is just about to touch. So this is going to have to be readdressed. This side over here is not too bad. It gets a little tight at the back, but they actually got this door on. This door is actually aligned pretty decent, but the same thing, the door is shut. Of course, the wing window assembly is not on, but pushing in, it doesn't come down far enough, so this is going to have to be messed with. But I'm amazed, man, that they'd put a door on and leave it that low. So I'm going to get in there and adjust that first. All right, so I put some blue painter's tape on the front edge of the door here. I detacked it, meaning I put it across my clothes before I put it on the car, just to kind of make it where it's not super sticky. But anyway, that's just to help, just in case it comes in contact with the fender. So what I was getting ready to do was take the striker out of the car, just remove it, and that way I've got full range of closing the door and check everything out. The problem is, it looks like this was just painted around. So you can see where the paint's peeling right there. So I'm a little bit, oh yeah, there's dry spray right there. So they had this taped off when they painted the car. That'd be too much work to take 3 screws out, you know what I mean? Man, I tell you. Anyway, I'm still going to go ahead and try to adjust this, but it's probably going to mess up the paint on the striker, around the striker. Alright, so I went ahead and removed the striker, and it's actually painted behind it, but it's been reshot. So they painted it without the striker first, and then they repainted it and left the striker on it. But one of the problems is it doesn't have the grip things on it. It's missing those. So I'm pretty sure I have those here. I'll have to go look. But man, that's crazy. Then they painted the screws black And you know, that's silver, so I don't know why you would do that. So I'm going to clean that off. There's masking tape on the bottom of that with paint on it. So now I can, you know, adjust the door the way I need to without the striker in there causing problems. But right now I've got it too high at the back, but I did raise it up pretty good, but it still needs to come up a little bit more, and then I'm going to have to drop the back down. At least I got a gap here now. So I got the fender broke loose. The fender's moving a little bit, but that lock right there is backwards. That's for the other side. I don't know how they did that. That's interesting. Alright, so I ended up loosening all the hinge bolts here, all of them, right there, and I moved the door up as high as it would go, like it bottomed out. And it's really nice. It's not perfect, like the trim's not lining up. This piece here, did that just move? Oh yeah, that piece is, yeah, they didn't put the screw in it. That's awesome. Okay, I'll have to put the, at least hopefully the hole line up, and I can lift that up just a little bit and then put the screw in it and make that line up with that. But you can see the gap here is a little bit better than it was, because, you know, with this being low, the curve on this piece was too low down here, so it's a lot better than it was. So I've got the door gap is pretty nice at this point, and I did take the striker out. So right now I can just kind of pull it to and check it over. So I'll have to loosen the trim off here, drop it down to match up with this. This is kind of what happens when, you know, you put your doors on your car. You need to align those doors to the best they're going to get, because those dictate the alignment of everything on these cars. The trim, the fender, the windows, everything on a hardtop especially. So anyway, that's about as good as it gets. Now the other issue is when I put it in there where it needs to be, this is pretty even right here, and the door is out at the top right here. This is out higher than the quarter. So I've got a wide gap right here. That's really wide. So at this point I am going to loosen up these two Phillips screws and the two bolts in there, and I'm going to push that hinge in that way, and that is what brings the door in closer to the body, and that will help the alignment on this part. So I'm going to try to get that pretty good. As far as it needs to go, I hope it has, there looks like enough adjustment. But then I'll have to go back and readjust the fender to the door. Now I can already tell after checking this thing over, I don't know what all was done metalwork wise to this car, but I do know they did put rockers in it. I know that for a fact now because I just climbed under it and looked at it. So I've got a pretty wide gap here now, and it's not too bad back here. So what they did, and you need to be careful when you're doing this, guys, if you're putting rockers on a Tri-5 Chevy, put your doors on first. So don't go in there and just put a rocker panel in a car without the door on it, because you need to see what your gap is. So you could have placed that up or down up here to take care of that. So when that door goes up where it needs to be, there's too wide of a gap here now because they didn't put the rocker in the right location. The rocker's down a little bit. So it's not too bad. I mean, I've seen cars that are a lot worse, so that's not too bad. But anyway, just it's frustrating for shops to, you know, they don't really know what they're doing sometimes. I'm not saying they didn't know what they were doing, but I wouldn't have done it that way. Let's just say that. So this door is going to be a lot better, and at least now it's putting tension on the flipper to pull it in a little bit, but the flippers are too far in and too far back, so those screws are going to have to be taken out. This is going to have to be taken out, and probably going to have to re-drill new holes in the roof. they're going to have to be drilled more forward and more out to get it. Now these are adjustable, slotted, so it looks like they will come out, but that's got to go forward, so that's why I got to drill new holes, because it's just not enough of an adjustment. But we're gaining, you know what I mean? We are gaining. All right, so this is what is missing off the back of that. You got the two slots here, and then you can see the little tabs that stick up on each end of this. So that goes on there just like that. And you got this guy here. It's just like a little grip plate. Anyway, that goes. Find that lock piece there. So that one goes like that. Luckily I have a bunch of stuff here, you know, spare. So I'm going to replace their spray painted black screws with some CAD plated ones here. I mean, they're not brand new, but it looks better than black in there. Alright, this is taking a lot of time, but it is way better. It's a can of worms. You know, when you have to start back at the door and start that over, you've got to readjust everything. So it's just the way it is. So this Fender does not fit very good on the rocker. This is an aftermarket rocker, so this is what you get into. So if you're doing aftermarket rockers and you're in metal work, make sure your doors are on, and before you take your old ones off, that way you can make sure your line's good and set the rocker where you need it. And then also, when you run into this problem, you can slice this end right here with a cutoff wheel, stick a flat blade screwdriver in there, bend that out to where you have a even gap between here, and then go in and weld that back up. So they didn't do that. They just pretty much stuck it on there and hoped for the best. But anyway, so this is about the best I can do with it. So with this being the way it is, it has a really wide gap, and it's fairly good until it gets up in here, and then it gets tighter and tighter, and I can't do nothing with it. So I've got this line pretty well even, as good as I can get. The cowl kind of has a kick in right here. It's not supposed to be there, but it has it. So it kind of makes it look odd right here, but it's even all the way down. Like that gap there's the same as this one. So I ended up loosening the front end, and I shifted the front clip over just a little bit to get that in line. And when I did that, it made this a little bit better. It's still pretty tight right here on the chrome, but the chrome is actually sticking out from the fender a little bit, and it's not even touching. So this needs to be tweaked and adjusted and messed with. That's aftermarket grill stuff. I went through the same thing with my hardtop, and it is very time consuming. So when the hood goes down here where it's supposed to, it's not terrible. I mean, it's as good as I can get it without blowing it all apart and doing metal work and, you know, doing it all up. But if you still have trouble in this area right here on your 55 or 56, now right now I got the hood latch out of it. I took the hood latch out so it would move easier. The hood latch pretty much bolts in. It's not adjustable. So if it closes without that hood latch and you like your lines, and then you go to shut the hood and you're noticing it's tighter on one side than the other, you need to adjust this. This is your adjustment. And I can tell by looking at that, it's crooked like that. So this is not even in there right. So I'm going to mess with that a little bit. But if your fender is in too close to your hood at this very end, you need to put a shim in between here. So I'm going to go ahead and loosen this up and put a shim in here, and see if I can't do something with that. And this is it's a can of worms, but it'll be way better when I'm done with it. So I'm pretty happy with the door now. I mean, the door, I've got the striker put in, and it lines up good. I got a hell of a nice line. So, you know, the trim is not too far off, but this gap's way better now, so the door's up where it needs to be. So now when the door's shutting, it's trying to pull this in, whereas before it was all the way up. So now I need to take this off and you know, pretty much re-drill new holes and get that setting right. And then I get to mess with trying to get that to adjust. And I see a problem already looking down here. So if you follow this flipper, you'll see it kicks out right here. See how that flipper kicks up at the back? It's not supposed to do that. So after I get in here and get to messing with it, I may have to bend this, tweak on that a little bit to get it fit better. But man, I'm probably 2 hours in already on this. Alright, so I loosened off this screw here to try to put a shim in there, and it's got a lot of tension on it. So I'm going to have to loosen up a lot more stuff here. But I just found some more goodness here. I want to show you guys this. There's supposed to be a bolt holding this panel here to this lower splash apron. That's not even bolted together right here. That's supposed to be touching that. So when you get in here and get to looking, there's no bolt here. They do have a bolt in here. They got a bolt in the center. They left the one out on the end. They left that one out right there. You can see that right there, no bolt. And then they got regular nut and bolt in here. I'm supposed to take a coarse thread. Now they got a nut and bolt on this side too. So, and there's no screw in this one either. I didn't bolt this together. Wow. That's amazing. Alright, so I put a shim in on the grill tie bar bracket to the fender, and now I've got an even line here. It's just this opened up a little bit more, but this just doesn't fit the fender good, so I'm going to remove this, and I'm going to go in and slot the holes in the fender to move this over where it needs to be and get it sucked up against the car where it looks better. Now here's another thing you need to check on, because they don't have this set up right either. So your hood, when you first shut it, may look okay, but push down on it. So this cowl is actually higher just a little bit than the hood. So it drops just a little bit. Now if that's really, really low and you go to open the hood, it can chunk paint. So it's a good idea when you're opening the hood, when you're messing with stuff, to kind of pull up on it, just do some light shaking back and forth to get it to come up a little easier. So what I need to do, this is your adjustment for your height right here. It's a little stop, a little flathead screw, and then there's a set nut. So I'm gonna, oh, it's loose. So this needs to come up to make the top of that even with that. So I'll have to reset the nut down, but that's probably about where it needs to be right there. Let's check it. There's all kinds of adjustment on these things, and everything needs to work together to be kosher. It needs to come up just a little bit more, just a little bit. Half a turn there. Okay. All right, that's pretty nice right there. So I'm going to reset that nut and that'll be done. And then let's check this side. This one's higher. So the hood, wow, you can see that. Look how high that is. Holy smoke. This hood wasn't fit to the car. So this adjustment needs to be brought down a little bit. And this hood needed to be bent down in the center. This needed to be bent down. So of course the car's painted, so I don't want to bend anything because it might crack paint. So I think what would be the best option at this point is to maybe shim the bottom of the cowl panel up. The only problem is it's, man, that is bad. Man, I hate to bend on that. I don't know, man, I may have to leave that, because like I was talking about on the can of worms, this could go really bad. So I think it's as good as it's going to get, really. So either the hood hinge needs to be dropped down, drop the hood hinge down till all this lines up, and then this end of the hood needs to be bent up. But the reality is, from about here to about here, this needs to be bent down, and I just don't want to mess with it. So if it wasn't painted, I would bend and tweak and pry, but I'm not going to. So I guess it's as good as it gets right there. So I'm gonna go back and adjust on that, because that's just too close. That is way too close. All right, so I was kind of messing with the hood back there, just trying to figure out how I could go about trying to get this in line better. And I thought about loosening that hinge up and dropping it down just a little bit, but I noticed this right here, and this is exactly why the hood is high in the center. See those two indents right there that are kind of angling this way? That's not supposed to be there. So that has been, that's had some trauma, we'll say. But that hood needs to be bent down, and I hate to do anything with it in paint. So I'm kind of just stuck, you know what I mean? But man, that is sticking up really bad. Look at that. That's about the thickness of my pinky tip right there. Golly. And it's almost even here. It could drop down just a little bit, but I was wondering if I dropped the hinge and then try to bend this up just a little bit, if it would work, but I don't even know if that would work. Man, I tell you, that's the stuff that should have been done in mock-up before paint got put on, but man, what a mess. Well, I might try dropping that hinge just a little bit, and then if anything, I might shim that screen up a little bit. That'll help. Alright, so I ended up using some little flat washers, some pretty thick ones, in between the cowl panel and the cowl, and I raised that center up. Let's see, I got 3 washers here, 2 washers here, and no washers here. So I mean, it's really good till about 3/4 across, and then it gets high, and I can't get it out of it. It's just, no matter what I do. I mean, if the thing was in bare metal, I'd use a block of wood right here and a dead blow and hammer this area down. It needs to be tweaked a little bit, but it's painted, so I can't do that. But I mean, it is not bad, but it's not up like it was. You can see across there now. It's just barely high right through here, so it's probably about as good as it's going to get, or as good as I'm comfortable with, is what I'm going to say. So now I'm going to go back to the grill bar piece here. So I'm going to show you this. This is common on these new grill surrounds. So this piece is it's too far in this way. So what I'm going to do is take the 3 nuts off of it. There's nuts on the back side. There's studs in this. I'm going to take those off. I'm going to pull this piece off, and I'm going to take a die grinder and I'm going to open up the holes on this on the grill to get that to go in there. Now there's one problem, and I had the same problem on my hardtop. So on this piece right here, if you can see that right there, see that little boss sticking out right there? That's what the stud goes in. That's why it's spaced off so much. That is actually hitting the grill. So instead of trying to bend the grill that's chrome and it could crack the chrome, I'm going to remove that stud and I'm going to grind that boss down a little bit and then put a little silver paint on there. I've actually got some galvanizing spray paint, so I'm going to just spray it in a cap and then brush it on there so it doesn't rust, which, you know, I don't want rust to start on anything basically, even though that's pretty much pot metal. But anyway, I'm going to grind that down, that way that'll fit a little more flush, and then with the holes oblonged a little bit, this will be able to move that way. But it's just kind of common on these grill parts that they just don't fit that well. And you can see this one right here is actually in, so I may put like a number 10 washer sandwiched in between the lower stud and the grill itself, because the grill's the one that has the holes in it. But I'm going to space that out. But I got to get this piece off first. I just wanted to show you how much of this you can actually see of the fender right here, and that should be up and over that. Just a reproduction part, and you have to modify them to make them fit good. All right, man, what a mess, let me tell you. So it looks pretty decent. It still gets a little bit tight right here, but it's actually the way the fender's made. Get right here, you can see that fender kind of kicks that way, like it comes down straight and then it kicks in toward the hood right there. I think that's kind of weird. So this one doesn't do that. I don't know if this is a reproduction fender or not. I don't know. Anyway, I slotted that, ground the tab and fit it over, and I did put a couple of spacers behind the lower part, but it just doesn't do any good. These are, it's like they're twisted. They don't ever fit very good. It doesn't fit very good on my car either, but anyway, it's way better. The gap is pretty nice. This is away from each other, so now this is not going to rub each other and, you know, start messing up the chrome. So the back of the hood is almost even. It just gets this one little edge side over here, and it's not so great, but it is way better, man. So pretty happy with it. The door fit is pretty decent. I mean, for what I have, you know, but the door opens and shuts pretty good now, and all the stainless fits pretty decent now. I still got to put the hole doesn't line up here, so I'm gonna have to go in there and drill a hole, and I'm gonna pull that trim up to meet this piece a little bit, so that's gonna be a little bit more involved. But anyway, it's about 5:15 p.m. It's 104 degrees out here today, and I could not tell you how many waters I've drank. Maybe 8 bottles of water, those small bottles. I've had 2 Gatorades. That heat takes it out of you, let me tell you. But anyway, I only got about a half a day in because I had to mess with my dog. So, I mean, a half a day, and I really didn't get anything done but adjust the door and stuff. But I had to move the door up to make sure the flipper and stuff works correctly. So, just a domino effect after that. Thanks for watching.